With that, I will recognize our first witness today. Mr. Epstein, you are recognized for your testimony.
Thank you very much, Chairman McKenzie, Ranking Member Omar, and distinguished members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to discuss H.R. 4624, the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act. My name is Lawrence Epstein, and I'm the Senior Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the UFC, the world's premier mixed martial arts organization. I've worked in combat sports for nearly 3 decades, first as a private practice lawyer representing clients across combat sports, and now as an executive with the UFC, where we have spent many years and invested billions of dollars building a global sport that has benefited thousands of athletes, many local communities, and hundreds of millions of fans. I deliver these remarks today as a proud boxing fan. My father first introduced me to the sport in its golden era of the 1970s and 1980s, when I watched American boxing legends like Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard, and marvelous Marvin Hagler captivate millions of fans with their otherworldly courage, determination, and athleticism. And I'm honored to sit here today alongside Lonnie Ali, co-founder of the Muhammad Ali Center and guardian of Muhammad's legacy, to discuss our support of this legislation. It is undeniable that professional boxing has suffered a steady decline in popularity in the United States. The sport's evolution and growth have been stifled, reducing opportunities for boxers and undermining the fan experience. The Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act can reverse this decline by creating a new space for an innovative model that will enhance and grow the industry and create more choices and opportunities for boxing. This bill establishes a framework for alternative systems called Unified Boxing Organizations, or UBOs, which would provide professional boxers with more career opportunities, better pay, and greater health and safety protections. UBOs would not replace, I want to repeat this, UBOs would not replace sanctioned organizations. Instead, UBOs would exist as a separate parallel system. Boxers would have the freedom to choose between the two systems, the sanctioned organization model that currently exists or the UBO model. Whatever one is best for them, they will be able to choose. UBO boxers would benefit from additional health and safety protections, including enhanced comprehensive medical exams, more licensed physicians and ambulance units present at each event, and perhaps most importantly, health coverage for injuries sustained during training, which corrects a massive deficiency in the current system. UBOs would also offer independently administered anti-doping programs with no-notice testing, both in and out of competition, to ensure that no boxer has an unfair and dangerous advantage over his or her opponent. UBOs would also maintain strict anti-betting policies to safeguard the integrity of competition. Beyond UBOs, this bill would also provide benefits to boxers fighting in the sanctioning organization system. The bill establishes a national minimum payment of $150 per round for all professional boxers. The Association of Boxing Commissioners believes this change will help boxers, since 6 states have minimums less than $150 per round, while most states have absolutely no minimum at all. And lastly, through this legislation, all professional boxers would have access to better health insurance, including a first-time national minimum of $25,000 of coverage for injuries sustained during a bout, higher than the current minimum in 43 states. It is also very important to note that my company, UFC, already has extensive experience in operating a best-in-class combat sports organization. For more than 2 decades, UFC has worked to become the gold standard for athlete health and safety in combat sports. We're proud of our track record, and we would certainly bring that expertise to bear in the boxing industry. As boxing is the only professional sport regulated by Congress, we believe congressional action in the form of bipartisan H.R. 4624 is needed to clarify the ambiguity in current law that has stifled investment and led to the problems that have diminished the sport for athletes and fans alike. This bill is a thoughtful solution that preserves the original Ali Act while providing boxers with access to more choices and opportunities, greater health and safety protections, and better pay. I want to thank the subcommittee for giving me the opportunity to testify here today, and be happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Amateur. I guess I'd like to hear more about the medical coverage of the Ultimate Fighting Championship that goes on in a person's life, as well as especially the training aspect. What's covered there?
Congressman, thanks for that question. Most injuries actually take place with mixed martial arts athletes, combat sports athletes in training. because every fight they participate in, many hours are used to train for that particular bout, and that's when many injuries occur. And so over a decade ago at the UFC, we instituted what we call an accident insurance policy for all of the athletes at the UFC that are currently under contract with us. That accident insurance policy provides coverage for any, underline, any acute injury sustained by the athlete in training or in any other situation, frankly, leading up to the event. You heard a little bit about what we'd like to do with this bill, which would be to increase the amount of coverage that would be for injuries sustained in a bout. But the coverage that we provide, obviously dovetails with that. It covers all injuries, any acute injury that's sustained during training, and frankly, any injury that the athlete sustains while they're under contract. And that's a very significant thing because in many situations, athletes, they don't have coverage. And they will actually go into a bout injured in order to avail themselves to the, at this point, fairly limited accident insurance policy they'll have relating to a bout injury. So we're very proud of that. We've done it for, I said, over a decade now. And it's something that we think is central to the UBO model and a requirement that all UBOs should have to implement before they can have this status.
That industry-wide standard is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Epstein, the UFC settled a long-standing antitrust case after allegations of using restrictive contracts, keeping fighters' pay at roughly 15 to 20% of revenue, as Mr. English was kind of alluding to. What minimum share of event revenues can you commit today that boxers could receive under Zuffa Boxing League?
Yeah, first let me just address, sort of the lawsuit, which is part of your question. We did settle the lawsuit. It was 10 years of litigation. We made a business decision to settle it. But I want to be clear, there was no finding of any liability or anything along those lines. As far as committing to any percentage today, obviously can't do that. We're starting a new business. If this legislation is passed, we're going to be starting a new business, and it's going to be a startup.
Okay, well then let me ask you this: UFC is being sued again, not only with more claims of wage suppression, but also new allegations of discovery violation. Even though you just said there was no discovery, possibly withholding a substantial amount of evidence that was crucial to the UFC's bid for force their antitrust claims into arbitration. With all these lawsuits, I'm having a hard time seeing why any of the fighters would ever be able to trust that they will be paid fairly in the system. So, Mr. Epstein, what would you tell the many boxers who are worried about being trapped in a long coercive contract, or how will you make sure that the economic freedom of boxers will not be taken away under this model that you're advocating for?
What I would tell them is they're going to have a choice. What's very clear from this legislation is that the existing Ali Act is not going to change at all. We're adding new provisions that will add for, we've talked about, the Unified Boxing Organizations, or UBOs. There's going to be a choice for athletes to make. I don't see how choice is a bad thing. If our system is not providing the economic opportunities for athletes, they can avail themselves to the existing system. But the problem we've got is the current state of boxing is just a disaster. As was mentioned in previous testimony from witnesses on this panel, there are no major media companies in the United States of America that currently broadcast in any way, shape, or form a consistent cadence of boxing events. If we look back 10 or 15 years ago, you had HBO, you had Showtime, you had ESPN Friday Night Fights, which I loved, Tuesday Night Fights on USA. I mean, I'm a huge boxing fan too. I want this sport to be successful. I want it to win. And I really do believe that the UBOs will give it a chance. But ultimately, it's going to be a choice for athletes. If they don't like it, they can choose to stick with the existing system.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Epstein, I will go to myself for the next round of questions, and I'd like to continue and pick up where the ranking member left off. When it comes to competition amongst different organizations and the potential for increased competition through HR 4624, I would like to hear how UFC's safety standards compare to other existing boxing industry standards that are in place today.
Thank you for that question. I mean, we believe that the UFC standards for health and safety are truly the gold standard in the combat sports industry. As I mentioned in a previous question, We provide accident insurance policies for all of our athletes. I think we have 750 athletes currently under contract. All 750 plus have what's called an accident insurance policy that covers them for all acute injuries. It was also mentioned by Ms. Ali that we have a UFC Performance Institute. That Performance Institute is a physical space that we have in several locations around the world that provides world-class training, nutrition, injury recovery, and sports science to all of our athletes free of charge. Those are just two things that we're doing to set the industry standard when it comes to combat sports. And the final thing, which I will mention, because Mr. English did mention, is drug testing. And I was a bit confused by his comments, and I agree with him that there should be absolute transparency when it comes to adverse drug testing, performance-enhancing drug testing results. Over 10 years ago, we instituted what I believe to be is the gold standard, not in the world of combat sports, but in the world of professional sports, a 365-day random out-of-competition testing protocol for all of our athletes, all administered by a third party. We don't decide who gets tested, when they get tested, for what they get tested, and all of the adjudication of any adverse results is handled by a third party. So this is the industry-leading stuff that we're doing for the health and safety in the UFC, and we absolutely intend to do this in a unified boxing organization structure.